But I think the most important thing to talk about right now is that in this game, all of you guys are graduates of the Mappa Mundi Institute. Mappa Mundi Institute is an organization devoted to exploring the mysteries of the world, chronicling kind of like the fog of war in the map, and really bringing to light the behaviors of monsters that exist in the wilderness. The world in this game is a world called Ecumen. It's a world based off of kind of medieval Eurasia, except with a fantastical flair. And the whole idea is that the world has recently gone through a cataclysmic event called the Flux. Okay, what did the Flux do? Well, it basically created these erratic weather walls that are now separating nations from each other. People in the West cannot travel across the globe to the east anymore. And as a result, the world's stories are being lost. History and legend as we know it is kind of being forgotten as the decades pass. Mappa Mundi is here to prevent history from being completely forgotten. And it's your job as Mappa Mundi chroniclers, as we call them in our game, to try to be those people that write the new maps of the world, that explore those areas that are like, here be dragons and whatnot, and really bring to life your own history of this world from the brink of disaster. So that's the game, in summary. And I'm just going to go over the 3 character classes that we have here, because we have pre-gens that I've made for everyone. Let's see. We have an archivist. Who is the archivist of this party?
That is me.
Yeah. So the archivist, just to give you a brief summary, the archivist is someone in Mappa Mundi who specialized in collecting knowledge. You are very accustomed to the folk traditions of the world. You might carry a satchel of books by your side. You're someone who's perhaps more at home in a library than you are at home in a social gathering. Okay. You're very much the brains and perhaps the heart of the party in some ways.
Incredible.
Our other character class that we have, and we call them licenses in the final game, like the character sheet that you guys are looking at is the license that you got when you graduated from the Institute, basically. So we have a fixer as well. Who is the fixer in this party?
That's me.
Excellent. Yeah. So the fixer, you are the social face of the party. Unlike the archivist, you are calm, confident, and charismatic when it comes to talking with people. And you're like an envoy. You're also the crafter of the party. You're like the MacGyver in that you're good at character relationships, but you're also good at objects and things. Like you might be the person that gathers all the supplies before you and your party travel into the wilderness. Think of yourself as like the MacGyver. You can take a rock and a rope and make like a pulley system to help the party cross a river. And you also know who to talk to get that rope and get that rock. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, we have the Guardian. I believe the Guardian is going to be DJ, correct?
That is me, yes.
Yes. So the Guardian, you are perhaps the closest thing we have to like a traditional fighter in this party, except you are purely defensive. All Mappa Mundi chroniclers take an oath to do no violence. You are naturalists. You are not murder hobos. And so you, as the Guardian, you are focused on defending your friends in the wilderness, maybe mapping out a trail. You might have a shield and a staff. You wouldn't really have a bladed weapon or anything like that. And your job is to like protect the people that you're with, but also to protect the creatures and monsters that you might come across, because there are folks in this world who might want to abuse them. Monsters are usually seen as like emissaries of fate in our world, and probably to you they have a sacred kind of relevance that you really want to respect. Okay.
All right. Very good.
So those are the classes.
I should say real quick, if we all drop out, just rejoin, and we will continue right from there. Sometimes Streamlabs will like just make everybody drop out, and then I'll just have to reassign you to your spots. It's great. I love it.
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'll briefly go over everything on the character sheet here. All of you guys are looking at a character sheet right now. There's space for your name, space for things like a picture and whatnot. Don't worry too much about that right now, but have a kind of an image of what you might look like in the back of your head, because I'll ask you a little bit later. I want you guys to look on the lower left-hand side of your sheet where there's a section called Training. Okay? So in our game, there are 4 just like how D&D has strength, charisma, intelligence, wisdom, we have 4 key abilities that everything else relies upon. Okay? Our 4 key abilities are traversal, observation, deduction, and exploration. Traversal is how good are you at jumping, at climbing, at crossing a river, at physically doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Observation is how good are you at using your 5 senses to observe things in the world, whether it's hearing, whether it's smelling, whether it's seeing something in the wild. Deduction is how good are you at deducing a plan based off of what you've observed. Okay, so basically this is kind of like your, this is kind of like a combination of like intelligence and wisdom in Dungeons and Dragons. Deduction is also sometimes used when talking with NPCs. What is the right argument that you can deduce in order to convince someone to let you do something? That sort of thing. Finally, exploration. How good are you at getting from point A to point B? Like, this is your sense of direction, not your physicality, but your sense of moving around in a crowded environment. So you'll notice that each of your classes is strong in one of these abilities and weak in the other. For example, the Archivist, great at observation, weak at traversal. Fixer, awesome at deduction, weak in traversal also. Whereas the Guardian, strong in traversal, weak in deduction. So we have an interesting array of skills right here.
Right.
Don't worry about successes, failures, and expertise. That's kind of for the final version of the game. And for leveling up, we probably won't get to that here. Look at the right-hand side of your sheet, and you'll see a section called Skills. Okay, skills are basically like our, if once again to equate it to D&D. D&D has things like animal handling, like thievery, diplomacy, stuff like that. These are our version of skills. Each skill relies upon one of the 4 abilities. For instance, the Fixer has a skill called Steady Hands, which relies upon their deduction ability. If you want to use Steady Hands in game, you just tell me, and then I'm going to ask you to make a deduction roll based on the die that's assigned to your deduction ability.
All right.
So the names of these skills are in the full book, the full PDF, but they're kind of self-explanatory. Does anyone have any question just based on the name what their skill does?
I'm just curious. What is "don't eat that"? That's just like
Don't eat that. Yeah. So yeah. So you're a fixer, and you have a skill. You have a skill called "Don't Eat That," which is specifically because as a fixer, you are well versed in perhaps the poisons of the wild, or even the poisons of an urban setting. You can tell if a root or a plant being sold in a market is dangerous and perhaps will lead to strange dietary consequences afterwards.
Right.
So yeah, that requires a deduction roll because it's like searching your memory banks and deducing, hey, have I seen this before? Like that combined with this, would this be toxic? That sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Incredible. What about behaviorist for the Archivist?
For the Archivist. So behaviorist relies upon your observation skill, and this is specifically you analyzing the behaviors and habits of not only people, but animals, possibly even monsters. You're looking into someone's nervous tics, maybe someone's breathing patterns, maybe, how a creature is moving, that sort of thing. You're looking for behaviors and habits.
Right. Looking for the little butt wiggle of a cat before it pounces.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. Right on. Any other questions? Oh, I think for the Guardian, you have tacks in the mud. That's meant to be tracks in the mud. It's a slight typo on the character sheet. But that is basically you're good at tracking footprints.
Incredible.
So those are skills, and then
Oh no! Already? Ridiculous. So let me fix that. Sorry, everybody. Streamlabs is a pain. There we go. All right, we're going to assign. There we go. We're going to go Jeremy. Jeremy is Jeremy. Perfect. Classic Sam is Classic Sam. Show on stream. And finally, Justin. I'm getting real quick at this.
nice.
And Classic Sam is... Oh, there we go. Perfect. Oh, right. Please continue.
Okay, so interactions on the lower right-hand side of your character sheet. These will come into play when you encounter the gigantic monster at the end of this adventure. Okay, think of these as like the battle abilities in D&D, like the fighter's second wind,
Yeah.
the thief's sneak attack, or like the ranger's multi-attack. Except you're not going to be fighting the monster in this game. Your job as naturalists are to try to unlock its behaviors.
Okay.
Okay. The monster you encounter at the end of this adventure has 8 behaviors, and your job is to try to use your interactions and your skills to try to make rolls and unlock all 8 of them, which is quite hard. Like very few groups manage to unlock all 8.
Okay.
But think of these as basically things that you might do in the field when facing a monster. A lot of people compare our game to Pokemon Snap, if anyone's played that. Like, you know,
Nice.
when you
Yeah.
wanted to take a cool picture of Charmander, you had to throw a Pokeball at him to get a reaction.
Yeah.
Okay. In our game, you're not necessarily going to be throwing Pokeballs, but the Fixer does have an interaction called Provoke. Okay.
Okay.
Just like skills, interactions depend upon those 4 abilities that we mentioned.
Mhm.
Provoke, for instance, depends upon traversal or deduction. So you can choose which skill you want to use here. Am I going to make a traversal check? Am I going to make a deduction check? And you tell me how you set that up. Bait is another skill, another interaction that the Fixer has. Whereas the Guardian has interactions like Explore and Protect. Explore, in this case, would be navigating the area around the monster to try to do something that might incite a certain behavior. And Protect is kind of self-explanatory. You're taking out a protective stance to see how the monster reacts to that. The Archivist, you have Sketch, pretty self-explanatory, and you have the very lovely Take Samples, which if you want to get a piece of poo, you're going to have to make me a traversal check in order to do that.
All right.
Okay.
Right.
So interactions will primarily be used during that monster encounter. You can use them at other parts of the game, but they're most relevant in that last section.
Okay.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? That's basically the game in a nutshell right there. It's pretty
No.
self-explanatory. You're just going to be making those checks and relying
Yeah.
upon your skills and interactions. I will say this, in the middle of your sheet, there is a section called Fate Points.
Okay.
Fate points are like inspiration in D&D or hero points in Pathfinder. You do something cool, flavorful, evocative during the game, I'll give you a fate point. You can roll a fate, or you can use a fate point to automatically fix a failed check.
Okay.
Sometimes, for instance, probably in the end of the game when you're interacting with a monster, I'm going to ask you to roll a fate die in order to reverse a failed check. Okay. So a fate die is just you choose any die, even result, success, odd result, failure. Okay, that's how fate points work in a nutshell.
All right.
Injury. So in our game, you cannot die. Okay, the fail state is not death. You don't have to worry about death. As a Mappa Mundi Institute chronicler, it's assumed that you have the skills, the mental acuity to narrowly avoid fatalities. However, you can get an injury, and an injury in our game is actually more annoying than death, because if you get injured while traversing the wilderness, your friends have to figure out a way to carry your injured body through the rest of the expedition. So that's an important thing in our game. The fail state is not death. The fail state is failing your mission as a naturalist and not being able to complete whatever expedition you set out to do. All right. So that's everything I think you need to know. You guys can keep your character sheets open. And the other thing we have is this chronicle sheet for taking notes. For the chronicle sheet, all you need to look out first is the research phase research phase section at the top. That's where you can take notes on NPCs, monsters, and whatnot as we play through the game. Our game is divided into 3 sections: research, journey, and encounter. Research is when you guys are going to be investigating a monster, talking with NPCs. This is probably the part that's going to be most familiar to you guys if you played a tabletop game before. All right. So, any questions? If not, then I'll take us right into it.
I think we're good. I think I'm ready. Oh, we just lost Sam's camera there for a second, but that's okay. We can continue.
Hang on a second. Fixing it.
There we go.
We should be good. Okay, great.
Perfect. Well.
All right. Okay, so this particular Mappa Mundi adventure is called Root and Branch. And when it starts, you 3 Mappa Mundi chroniclers are on the trail. You are one of our kingdoms called, we have 10 kingdoms in the game. The one you guys are in is called Barbecia. Think of it as kind of based off of like medieval France. All right. But you guys have set out today from the Mappa Mundi Institute in the capital city of Multiers to investigate a small village called Gascar. You can write it down Gascar if you want. You've been tasked by your superiors in the Mappa Mundi Institute to see about a possible monster that's been sighted in the forest near Gascar. So you know a couple things about this region. Gascar is located in an area with lots of rainfall. For the last 6 months, there's been constant rain. And this is a small village. The population at the time of the last census was just 135 people. And we're talking farmers here. Okay?
Yeah.
You have 2 contacts in Gascar. You have the woman that wrote to you in the Mappa Mundi Institute. Her name is Sylvie Perrault. You can just write down Sylvie, Sylvie. She's the head of a local religious organization called the House of Fate. And she wrote about some strange goings-on in a forest near Gascar. Specifically, she said there were moving roots and branches in the forests, and the locals suspect that some kind of monster. The other contact you have is the mayor. His name is Bastian Hugo. You can just write down Mayor Hugo if you want to, Hugo. He is the owner of Gascar's only inn, the Yawning Mastiff Inn. The guy has held the position of mayor for about 14 years, and you suspect he probably doesn't do very much because it's a very small town. So as we begin, you guys are on the trail. You're pretty close to the village of Gascar. And I would just like to each of you to describe what your character looks like and what they might think of this mission to go to Gascar and investigate this root and branch monster. Does anyone want to go first? We have the Archivist, the Fixer, and the Guardian.
I'll go first.
I can go first. Oh, okay.
Okay.
DJ, go for it.
I am Desmond Hill. I am a very burly explorer type, definitely kind of like your Gaston build, just wide-chested, handsome, very noble. Here to protect you all.
Excellent. What does Desmond think about this mysterious mission?
Desmond is a cautious type, hence why he always goes on the he wants to protect everybody, and so for him he's nervous, as he is when dealing with any sort of larger monster. Just nervous, paying attention.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, you probably have a keen eye for monster behavior in the wilds, and you know that we're supposed to observe this thing if it is a monster and chronicle its behaviors, but I also got to make sure my comrades don't get hurt in this process.
Exactly.
Yeah. Excellent. That is very much the mentality of a guardian. What about the Archivist and the Fixer?
Well, I am playing Hertz Undgehern, and Hertz is young, probably 22 years old, and this is first mission that I have been sent on in the wilds. I'm very excited to finally put all of my book learning to practice, and looking forward to doing some incredible sketches of spooky monsters, beautiful monsters. Any kind of monster, honestly. Seeing it in person would really just cheese me full 100%.
That's an Archivist for you. You got your books, you got your sketch pad, you got you're just itching to draw a picture of a monster, write a formal report. Yes. Beautiful stuff. Yeah,
I've been reading about it. Time to really put it into. I've read about rhinoceroses. I've never seen a rhino. Finally seeing one. Crazy.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, you're rubbing your fingers together, hoping that a rhino will come down the trail. What about the Fixer? How do you feel about this mission, Fixer? What do you look like?
Her name is Vouch. She's not sure what her last name is, but she's kind of just in her own little world. Just wants to deal with her little cogs and her little ropes and trying to find things. And like, oh, there's a root there. We probably should be looking at that more close. I've never seen that root before. So she's super quiet, and kind of thin, but definitely not malnourished, but just kind of on the thinner side. Just
Mhm.
really into her stuff. Like, does not quite a people person. Just hi.
Yeah, so maybe leaning into more of like I'm good with the object side of the
Yes.
fixer, where it's like I'm
Mhm.
very at home with crafting things together. I can get anything I need on this trail to help these two folks that I'm traveling with. Like you can rely upon me to design whatever we need to surmount any obstacle. There you go. That's a
You want
good
a bridge?
mentality
I
for a
got you a
fixer.
bridge, but we're not having a chat.
Excellent. All right. So we have this motley crew, and as you guys enter the town of Gascar, the research phase formally begins. All right. So you're greeted by this worn sign that says "Welcome to Gascar," and there's a gentle glow that radiates from the windows of several candlelit homes. It is probably about the afternoon, but it feels like you're entering into like a very thick evening time fog. That's the first thing you notice when you walk into Gascar. The fog is as thick as pea soup, and you can't see that far around you. I mean, this fog cloud seems like it suddenly rose up as soon as you walk into the village's vicinity. So this does feel like a sleepy village, but it's also kind of unusual that this fog is masking everything away. So I'm going to move you guys for the sake of time to the locations pretty quickly. Okay. The first location I'm going to say is the House of Fate. This is where you can go to meet Sylvie, the woman that wrote to you guys. So the House of Fate, this is not like a church or some kind of grand religious building. As you follow the directions towards Sylvie's house, you see that this is a woman running like a religious center out of her home. It is a small house decorated with the symbol of Fate's loom on it. The Fate is often represented with like a loom or like a pattern or a thread in our world. And you can enter the door. You can speak to Sylvie. She is a plump, gregarious woman, and she's wearing these robes emblazoned with the symbol of fate as well. She's very excited to see all of you guys, and she greets all of you. She's like, "Oh, Mappa Mundi chroniclers! I'm so thankful that you're here right now. I wrote to you, and we have some very bizarre goings on in this town. The so-called root and branch monster has been really making the people talk." And the mayor has told everyone to stay out of the Azura Woods. That's Azura. The Azura Woods. It's not too far from the borders of town, but it's where the root and branch monster has been spotted. Just weird roots and branches moving in the fog, and the people are talking about tree monsters or all sorts of things. Also, someone's gone missing in the last couple days. It doesn't really bode well for the town because people are starting to say that, oh, maybe the root and branch monster was involved. So I can tell you what I know, but I know Mayor Hugo probably knows a little bit more than me. So now I invite you guys to ask Sylvie a few questions. You guys can also use your skills if you want to try to, or your abilities, to try to discern things about Sylvie and what she tells you.
All right. Well, I'm not quite good at deduction, but I am quite good at traversal. So, it's in the Azura Woods, possibly, you say?
Yes.
Tell me about these woods. Any, I don't know, dangers we should be looking out for specifically? What is the characteristics of these woods?
Oh, well, the Azura Wood is it's a forest. It stretches about, pretty far, I would say 13 miles down to the south of Gascar. And I've never been there myself, but I know that the mayor tells people to watch out for treacherous terrain and low visibility, especially because of the fog. So, throughout this research phase, guys, I am going to be assembling a deck of cards.
Okay.
On my end. All right.
Okay.
Each of these cards represents each of these cards represents an environment you can encounter in the next stage of the game, the journey phase. All right. These are environments that you will explore in the next stage of the game. And I'll tell you guys, you have unlocked the forest card right now. Okay. So these cards are interesting because they all have radial symmetry. They can be read
Oh.
rightwise
That's really nice.
or upside down. Okay?
Oh, that's cool.
During the journey phase of the game, I'm going to present you guys with the cards you have unlocked. If you manage to find out all of the facts related to, for instance, the forest card, this card will be presented to you rightwise, and it will be a sunny, beautiful, relatively easy trek through the forest. If you've managed to not quite find everything and there's still some mysteries left regarding the forest, then it will be presented inverted, and it will be difficult. There will be challenges to overcome. So, ask your questions, do your research, be the naturalists who are trying to figure out what sort of things they can discern about these environments.
so-
That's all Sylvie really knows about the forest, though.
Okay.
Okay. Sylvie, if you don't mind, if I could ask you a question about this fog. Happens all the time or new? This time of year? Maybe we put our heads together and figure out.
It's been going on for the last 6 months or so. I just know that the local farmers are quite angry. The fog's not that great for visibility out in the fields, and yeah, it's really made the Azura Woods kind of like a labyrinth. That's what the mayor says. He's told people, stay away. You don't want to be tripping and falling, especially when there are these moving roots and branches in the fog. That's all I know, unfortunately.
No, I thank you.
I'm going to turn to the research and go, ask her if there's any hair or fur or footprints.
Okay, I will ask her your question. Excuse me, Sylvie. I have a second question. It has just come to me.
Yeah, please.
What about, I don't know, any hair or fur or tracks found? I know visibility is low, but perhaps...
You'd probably have to ask the mayor a little more about that, but I do know that there used to be some foragers and some hunters who would go into the forest. So yeah, there's definitely hair, fur, probably some tracks there. I'd assume, people talk about moving tree monsters. They must leave some tracks. And of course, there is the fella that went missing.
Do you know what his name is?
Yes. So his name was Pierre Vircher. So you can just write down Pierre, Pierre. So the thing about Pierre is he is not a local. He was a self-proclaimed big game hunter. Came from out of town at the beginning of this week. So the tales of this root and branch monster are starting to spread. The villagers are talking to people in the other villages not that far from here. And so Pierre said he'd heard about it, and he was going to take it as a trophy. So he came here and he talked to people. He's kind of an obnoxious man. I didn't like him very much. I personally think it's a sacrilege to be killing monsters like that. I think monsters are often symbols of fate. And I think that we need to figure out whether this monster is an omen of good tidings or bad tidings. But Pierre
totally
didn't
agree.
Pierre didn't seem to care about that. He's talking a lot about a trophy for his mantle. That's what he said. So
Shameful. Shameful. It says in the bylaws of the Mappa Mundi Institute, I think section 5A, sublaw 16, first do no harm. So I think it's pretty cut and dry.
Ask her if there's anything else missing other than people.
Okay. Miss Sylvie, a third question, actually. I suppose this would be the fourth. I'm the archivist. I should know numbers. Has any livestock gone missing, or any animals, farm animals, beasts of burden, other than just this Pierre individual?
No livestock, I'm afraid. Just Pierre. But stories are starting to spread, and there's a bit of a paranoia situation here because people just don't know what they're dealing with. So I'd encourage you to speak with the mayor, and he can probably give you a little bit more intel about the forest and about Pierre too, because Pierre stayed at his inn.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's
If
helpful.
you could point us in the direction of this mayor, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. So she's gonna point you guys in the direction of the mayor, and I'll shuffle you guys off to the next location just so we keep a move on. So the Yawning Mastiff Inn, only inn in town. It's a sleepy little place. It's maintained by Mayor Hugo. There's an aging dog by the fireplace that gives the inn its name. Mayor Hugo greets all of you guys. He's a portly man. He's got a big beard, like the sort of guy that this sort of politician that enjoys to get through his day with doing the absolute minimum, probably. But he seems very stressed at this moment. He's pulling his beard. He's like, oh, Mappa Mundi. Oh, yes. So all of you know these things about monsters, right? That's good, because I don't want people to think of Gascar as a place where folks go missing under my watch. I've been the mayor for 14 years doing very little, and I'd like to keep it that way.
Oh,
So
I understand.
what do you want to know? I'm at your beck and call.
Well, let's start from the beginning. When did things start to kick off, so to say? And of course, what recent changes have happened to the Azura Woods?
So there's the fog, which I'm sure Sylvie told you about, and that started about a month ago. And then the sightings of the root and branch monster kind of corresponded. Okay, so I've actually seen the monster. All right, I went to the Azura Woods when all of these tales started. Okay, I went to the border of the woods to see what the fuss was about.
That's Justin there.
We got
There
one
you
man down.
We'll just wait for Justin to get back, and I'll. There we go. And
There we go. Okay. Yep.
Perfect. And Shalantra. There we go. Continue.
Yeah. So after I crossed the border of the forest, I was looking around and I saw a collection of thin trees sticking out of the fog. Okay, and I watched those trees float from the left side of my vision to the right side of my vision, just floating real eerie. I couldn't see what they were attached to. It's just trees floating in the mist, almost like they were walking and had legs of their own.
Interesting.
It's like the forest had come alive. I'd never seen anything like that before. So obviously that's probably the biggest change that we've got going on here.
Did any leaves get dropped?
Oh, I think leaves got dropped everywhere. Yeah, I have good hearing. Yeah, I have very good hearing. I can hear you. Leaves got dropped in a variety of different places, I think, but it was just very strange. The trees were wispy and moving on their own accord.
Very good.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, these trees that were moving on their own, did it seem as though they were individual entities or connected via a root system?
Now that you talk about it, it did look like they were moving in tandem. Yeah.
Very
But
interesting.
It's awfully hard to see in the fog. So, yeah, not sure.
Interesting.
If the fog was originated from the trees.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you caught that, but
oh yeah, something about fog originating from the trees.
Yeah, precisely.
Is it thicker near the trees? I think that's.
Well, I'll tell you this, says the mayor as he contemplates, and as you guys have unlocked the fog card.
Ooh.
I'll tell you this. I'm not exactly sure if the fog had originated near the trees, but I'll say that we used to have an old system of navigating the Azura Woods where folks would tie red ribbons to trees to try to mark the path. Yeah, because the wood is treacherous and the terrain is a little bit steep in some places, and those red ribbons really came in handy when the fog was just setting out over everything. So, well, I don't know if the fog originated from the trees. I do know that the red ribbons are still up there, still attached to the trees. So if you're going to the forest, I say follow the ribbons, and it'll take you through to the nexus points of the forest, I think.
All right.
Very good.
So, does that mean, and maybe I can use local knowledge observation?
Good choice to use one of your skills.
My curiosity is Gascar with this fog having a system in place of red string to navigate through the fog. seems to me like an interesting thing to develop if the fog has only been here for a month. So like, is the fog like a part of the natural ecosystem that they're kind of used to it? And maybe the time of this fog is just abnormal, or the density of this fog is abnormal. Like, where is the incongruency?
Make a local knowledge check using observations. This is going to be observation. I think you have a D6 for observation, right?
I do.
Yeah, try to roll me a 4 or above. I'm always going to tell you the target number in this game. Yeah.
Okay.
So roll me a 4 or above.
I will certainly try. It's a 2.
It's a 2. You're not really sure. I mean, you've been translating a lot for your fixer, who continues to whisper in your ear, and so that kind of you're not exactly sure about the exact geography of this place. So you can't really discern that much based off of what you hear from the mayor. Unfortunately,
it does. I kind of want to know, because as a fixer, I know about the plants and the roots and stuff. Does the area seem familiar to her, or does she understand about the trees and how things work and how they're interconnected?
Sure. So on the way over here, you probably observed the surrounding woods and wilderness outside of Gascar. And this would probably just be your standard observation ability. So
Okay.
let's have you make an observation roll using that D4. Roll a 3 or above if you can.
3 or above. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I feel like Justin. I feel like they kind of set the standard here. We got a 4.
You got a 4. You had kept a close eye out as you were walking towards Gascar, and you actually probably noticed the start of the Azura Woods and where you guys need to go in order to find out what this monster is. You get a sense that probably based on the ecology of this place, this does look like it's probably a part of the world that has been affected by the flux, that event I talked about at the beginning of the game. Like, there probably is erratic weather that's been in this area, and probably lots of rainfall, which would explain why folks might have set up those red ribbons. However, you think that the density of the fog is probably a new thing. You think back to the census materials that you read. You did read that Gascar, constant rainfall, but probably not this low level of visibility. So that low level of visibility is a new thing. And you perhaps wonder if, who knows, maybe this root and branch monster is somehow producing the fog, or is connected to the rain, and something is condensing, and that's how the fog is appearing. That's kind of what comes into your mind based off of these things you've observed.
Okay.
So you guys have time. You guys have time to maybe ask 1 or 2 more questions of the mayor.
Yeah. Is there someone else in town that specifically had anything to do with this guest, the one who went missing? Or if you know anything about him?
Yeah, Pierre. He's a real unsavory type. Carried a big spear. He might have had 2 spears, I don't remember. But anyway, he put my nerves on edge. He booked a room here at the inn, stayed for a week, drank a lot of my beer, didn't pay his tab off. Then he disappeared. He was going back and forth, I think, doing some kind of scouting trips into the forest. And he would come back from his scouting trips, and he would hold himself up in his room, and then he would come down. He would demand a meal and a beer, and he would say nasty things to anyone who questioned him. He seemed to have a really big ego. I'm pretty sure he tried hitting on my wife a couple of times. Just between you and me, I'm not that concerned about Pierre. You don't repeat this, but I mostly just don't want people to start thinking of Gascar as a place where out-of-towners come and disappear. Okay, and if one of the townsfolk disappears next, then we've got a problem.
I could see that being
of course. Yes. Did Pierre ever speak of his exploits on these trips before going missing?
He said all types of things. He said he'd search for all sorts of monsters, knew all sorts of old legends. I don't know. I can't think of an exact thing that he said, but if you're interested in him, you can take a look at his room if you want to. It's been cleaned, but I don't know. It might have a clue or something left over.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, please.
So you can go up to Pierre's room. The room is a nice, well, probably one of the nicer rooms in this small inn. There is a large bed. There is a desk that immediately draws attention, but it's been cleaned. It doesn't look like there's anything quite off kilter, unless you guys use your skills, for example, observation, deduction, or your or anything else to try to figure out what's.
I would like
what's
to
gone
use
wrong here.
quick thinking.
Quick thinking. Okay.
Basically, there's always those spots that every hotel fails to clean. I just went to Gen Con. I experienced all of them.
All right, so that's going to be traversal because you're traversing the room and looking over these spots that haven't been cleaned. Give me a 2 or more.
2 or more?
If you can. Yeah.
That is a 5.
That is a 5. You, Guardian, you use your experience after just having come back from the Mappa Mundi Gen Con convention to search the room, looking for any smelly socks and junk that's been left behind. You pay close attention to the table. You notice there are ink marks and splatters on the table. You also look in the little space between the bed and the wall. There is a small satchel bag containing a journal that you find there.
Interesting.
It's fallen in the cracks.
Well, obviously this isn't very useful. No, I'm kidding. Pull the journal out and go, I think we have something here. And I will lay it out on the table, open it up to, of course, the last entry, as, makes sense when somebody has gone missing.
Incredible.
You found Pierre's journal. It's not a journal that he used very much. It doesn't look like Pierre was a wordsmith. That's probably why he left it behind. Okay, but you do find that this guy had made scouting trips throughout the Azura Wood in the past week, and he navigated a river when tracking his quarry. All right, so the river apparently stretched some distance and ended up in a fairly rocky section of the lake. A rocky section of the forest. So you guys have unlocked the river card.
Incredible.
I love these. I love a good card.
I know, right? Those are pretty too.
Yes.
Yeah. You guys have unlocked the river card.
Go
ahead.
Was there some type of? You said there was some type of substance or
on the desk, there was like ink.
Yeah, is there ink?
Yeah, so there are ink marks on the desk. The guy was writing on his desk. You're pretty sure.
Yeah,
but you don't. Yeah, you can't really tell much from the ink marks themselves. But perhaps one of your skills, or maybe if you want to use your deduction ability to try to come up with a plan. Yeah, deduction.
Yeah.
So Fixer, deduction. Give me a 4 or more if you can on that D6.
4 or more.
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta turn this. It is actually, I'm gonna hold it so you can kind of see it so it doesn't move. It is a 6.
It is a 6.
Incredible.
I love.
All right, you look at the ink marks, and you just found a notebook. Pierre was writing at the desk. He was probably using a quill, some kind of pen. It embedded pretty deep into the desk. You could take the paper and do a rubbing with charcoal or with a pencil and whatnot. You can do a rubbing, and it's not a very good rubbing because you're rubbing in indents. You're not exactly sure what this is, but the thing that really catches your attention is you find a drawing. Pierre was doing some sort of sketch. It's a drawing of a spiral. Okay, a spiral surrounded by trees.
Okay, maybe a sinkhole, or. I mean, that's when I think of spiral in the forest. It's a hole.
So this is
or a cave.
This is a clue of some sort. Yeah. You guys aren't exactly sure what it means, but you have found it, and perhaps it does relate to this monster. So I would like to give everyone a fate point for some quick thinking in the room to have found all of Pierre's stuff.
So you just put a 1?
Yeah, just put a 1 on your fate point stack. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4. You can have a whole bunch of them. Nice. So everyone has a fate point. All right.
And what's his journal last entry say? Or is that the
Oh, the last entry was just that there's a river.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, he looks like he was just mapping out the forest. Okay.
All right. So
Now, in the name of time, once again,
Yes,
I'm going
of
to
course.
push you guys. Boom, we're going
Absolutely.
to keep on pushing you guys. In the full version of this adventure, which you can read if you download our pre-release guide, there's more to do in the town and more NPCs to talk to. However, in this quickie game, boom, you guys have decided to proceed, knowing that you have found all there is to find in Gaskar. You decided to tackle this forest, this so-called Azura Wood, and this is going to take us to the second phase of the game. I'd like you guys to look at your chronicle sheets. You'll see a section called the journey phase. The journey phase is where we are going to go through those cards that I specifically brought up. And we're going to see, based off of what you guys uncovered and based on what you asked the NPCs, exactly what the obstacles are like in this journey phase. Okay, we'll get into the mechanic called shaping in a little bit. So, as you guys stand at the fringes of the Azura Wood, once again, heavy fog everywhere. You can hear the sound of water bubbling away somewhere in the forest, and there's maybe the caw of an occasional raven flying above. But the forest is a mystery at the moment, and all you know is that somewhere in its depths, this root and branch monster lurks. So, I'm going to take you guys now to the forest card. This was the first one that you guys unlocked. So you asked a fair number of questions about the forest, focusing a little bit on the trees and, the terrain of the forest and whether there was any hair or fur on the ground. But you weren't quite able to find out exactly what that terrain was like, what the names of the plants were and whatnot. And so this card is going to be presented inverted. Okay, the forest is still somewhat treacherous and unknown to you guys. When a card is presented inverted, it means that I'm going to throw you guys a challenge to surmount. All right, so as you enter this forest, suddenly thorny brambles pull at your clothing everywhere. Your pathway is blocked by trees that almost threaten to rip at your skin, and by brambles, like the brambles in Sleeping Beauty, that just threaten to cut access deeper into the forest. You guys need to find a way to get these brambles, these thorns, these tree roots out of your path. What are you going to do?
I think that there's a part of Hertz that is looking to the Guardian to help with some physical stuff.
It's like, hey, Guardian, do the heavy lifting. Come on, man.
Yeah, there's a tap on your shoulder.
Pull out my staff.
But I would like to, while the Guardian is doing whatever the Guardian's going to do, I would like to, if I could use, I don't know if this counts as local knowledge or folk tradition, but can I look for red string or red rope?
You don't see any red rope at the moment now. I'll tell you this. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
don't need to make a roll for that.
I would like to use my traversal skills, or my ability of traversal, and it's leave the place exactly how you found it. Don't destroy anything. So of course, instead of whacking at the various branches, I will instead be taking my my staff and kind of like pushing the branches out of the way so we can get by without causing too much ecological damage to the area.
So you've got a skill called soft steps that relies upon your traversal skill, and this is an excellent usage of soft steps. So let's use your soft step skill and roll me a 4 or more on that traversal die if you can.
Ooh, that was a 4.
It was a 4. The Guardian very carefully has a staff that he uses to pat down certain sections of these brambles, like gently, almost like a cane. You know how to push down this section of the bramble bush so that the following section is accessible. And as you do this, you guys can see that there are some tunnels through the foliage that perhaps small animals have made, and you're able to follow those tunnels to make it out of this treacherous scene. Good job. You have surmounted the challenge in the forest card.
Yay.
As a result from doing this, I would like to give everyone the chance to shape this location. So shaping is an important mechanic in Mappa Mundi. When I ask you to shape something, basically it means you get to add your own flavor text to the narrative and tell me, what does this stretch of forest look like? What do the brambles look like? As soon as you shape something, as long as it doesn't contradict what anyone else has said, including me, it becomes canon in the narrative, and then we continue to build off of that. So shaping can be kind of, it can be as conservative or as wild as you want. If you want to say that, the brambles are connected to the ruins of an ancient city beneath the forest, that's canon now. So I would like to invite the Guardian, because you're the one that succeeded on the check, to shape the location for me. Then we'll go to you two guys, the Fixer and the Archivist as well.
So as we begin to kind of like push through and flatten like an entrance essentially into this bramble and through this bramble, the path kind of like, and strangely enough, it is rather path-like. It almost opens up where it's bramble on either side, but has kind of opened a bit into a more comfortable walking situation that would be completely hidden from the outside world, because you would look at it and you would say, oh, that's just a super thick bramble. It goes super deep. That's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, so it's almost like the brambles part, almost like a secret garden kind of vibe.
Yeah,
Like this forest is far deeper than it would appear. Excellent. Who wants to build off of that shaping? Maybe add their own flavor.
Can I say that on the inside of this bramble tunnel, probably blocking out much natural light, I imagine, depending on how tight or how interwoven the brambles are, that maybe there are some like fireflies, just like giving the softest little, not necessarily like the most helpful in terms of light, but just a beautiful a respite, like this just interesting little moment of beauty in this like seemingly scary, I mean, obviously safety in the tunnel, but still rather scary, especially for the Archivist.
Yeah, that's great. So I mean, this is where kind of like the doodling section of the game goes on. So like if you have the physical character sheet in front of you, we encourage people to draw and like the shaping as it occurs. So like, you've got these like fireflies, almost like kind of like a Feywild sort of vibe right now. Like you're going into this place that seems initially quite eerie and mysterious, but then you see that the weird lights floating around that look like will-o-wisps are actually fireflies. That's great. I love that. Fixer, do you have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, because the fog is still so thick and the canopy of the brambles is creating this like dark tunnel, and with the fog giving off presumably like a lot of humidity and moisture, there are like different types of mushrooms growing along the path, and she notices that some are great for food and some are not so great for food, and some might be poisonous to the touch and some might be great just to like, for medicine, or some might not be anything at all.
That's excellent shaping. And in fact, because it also relates to your don't eat that skill, I'm going to say that you do spot some of these strange mushrooms growing, and you are able to pick them if you want to. You spot that there's some poisonous ones. I mean, they won't kill someone, but they'll cause some intense vomiting. And there's also some normal ones that can be used as a food source. You can pick both if you want to. Up to you. I will say that this is a game where inventory is not of massive importance. Like you're not going to be buying items in the game. If you come across objects and put them into your inventory, always think about how you can use them later to advance the story.
Right.
So I suggest you just write down you have both toxic and non-toxic mushrooms on your character sheet, and see if there's a way to advance the fiction with that later.
Okay.
Very cool.
So that's shaping for the forest. We've created a very specific image of the forest, this bramble tunnel illuminated by fireflies and filled with mushrooms. You guys keep on walking through the tunnel, and then finally you find that this bramble tunnel actually leads to the fog that we talked about before. Okay, and now this is where you see the red ribbons. I'm going to build off of some of this shaping that you guys did and say that the ribbons are not just tied to trees, they're almost like forming an archway, like in this bramble tunnel. almost like inviting you guys to come closer. And because you guys talked to the mayor and specifically found out facts about the red ribbons, I'm presenting this card to you rightwise. Otherwise, it would have been inverted and you guys would have been horrendously lost. But boom, the mayor told you the facts about the ribbons. It is rightwise. So when a card is rightwise, there is no intense challenge to surmount. It means we get to automatically go right into that shaping process. So who wants to continue telling me what this bramble pathway looks like?
Oh man, I'd like to believe that there is, this is like such a silly detail, but there's like a very specific, my dad listens to this very old country song about a yellow ribbon tied around the tree. Like I'm just picturing that, like there's a very, like amongst all the red ribbons and the fog and the dreariness and brambles, there's like a very beautiful, albeit aged, like different colored ribbon that is almost more like the equivalent of like high schoolers carving their name into a tree, but much more environmental.
Yeah,
like
interesting.
I like that.
It's not meant to necessarily be like super helpful. It's more like a Joanne and Kyle.
Hey, who wants to build off of that as one of you guys goes closer? Maybe who wants to build off of what this slightly yellow ribbon looks like?
Yeah. So it's definitely like a more stylized ribbon with names embroidered in it. In a nice let's see, it's yellow, so we'll just go with a nice black thread has the names embroidered in it, and of course Joanna and Kyle are the names. It also has a date. The date is old. It's quite some time ago. Maybe they're still alive, maybe they're not. But
it's interesting. You guys can take this ribbon if you want to, or you can leave it. Maybe the Azura Woods at some time were like a secret getaway for young lovers. Maybe they wanted to get away from the town, have a little bit of privacy, have a little picnic in the secret garden. And so
I'd say we'd leave it. We'd leave it because at this point, because it's been so long, the tree has begun to claim the ribbon, right? And so like cool. it's starting to lip over it. It's essentially a part of the tree. To take it would be wrong.
Do you want to add anything onto that, Fixer?
Yeah. I think that we noticed that not only is it part of the tree, but for some reason the fireflies, not all of them, but some of them kind of congregate around this ribbon.
Oh, that's good.
And like gives it a nice soft little glow, and it's just kind of like
love that.
There's something very pretty about it.
So it's cool. Sketch it. Go ahead. The image that we're creating is that the Azura Wood, it's not as creepy and dangerous as you necessarily expected. As long as you get past some of the obstacles, there is perhaps some some moments of intimacy, some moments of beauty to be found in the forest. And that's great because as you guys navigate past the fog, you suddenly find yourself in the river. Okay, and you make your way out of the bramble bush, and suddenly your feet are wet, your ankles are wet, and your legs are wet. You are suddenly walking through knee-deep water, and you didn't have the chance to find out too much about the river. So unfortunately, the river is going to be presented inverted. You did not expect to suddenly be wet, but you walk out of the bramble bush, and it's suddenly like splash, splash, splash.
Oh.
There is going to be a challenge here, I am afraid. As you walk your way through the river and finally manage to reach the sandy banks outside of the river and are wringing out like your wet clothes, you guys suddenly notice that there are little black wriggly things attached to exposed parts of your body.
Don't like it.
They're leeches. Yeah. There are some leeches that have gotten up on you guys. There's a fair number of leeches. They're annoying little bastards. This is going to require some plan of removal, or else you might incur an injury.
Who's good at this?
The
mushrooms, maybe?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I picked some of those mushrooms. And I knew that some of them were like medicinal. So I encourage my companions to like get like a small stick and flick them off, so I could add the mushrooms and like give them mushrooms to rub on the wounds so that they don't come infected or something.
So Fixer, this is very interesting. You have a skill called steady hands. You can keep your
Yes.
hands very steady in moments like this. And so normally this would probably require a deduction check of 5 or more. But because you have steady hands and because you also have the mushrooms that you picked up earlier and you're using them to advance the fiction, I'm going to make that a 3 or more.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
Incredible.
A 1.
A 1. Do you want to use your fate point?
Yes, I would like to use my fate point.
You burn a fate point that instantly changes it into a success. You have 0 fate points now.
Okay, good.
But this changes it instantly into a success. And you fumble a little bit with your fingers, you're cutting up the mushrooms and whatnot. But then you manage to, let's say, I mean, you have implements on you that a fixer might have, maybe a little knife or a stick. You can pry off the leeches. And are you planning on feeding the mushrooms to your injured colleagues, or like rubbing them on the wounds?
I feel like I would know that by rubbing them on the wounds, that not only is it like antibiotic, but because of the way it adheres to the skin, I guess leeches cannot like reattach to that same area.
Awesome. That's great. So the leeches start to fall. You surmount the challenge through some clever thinking and a fate point. Is there anything you want to shape about the leeches, how they fall, where they fall into, where they might have come from, and about the river in general?
I think once they fall, if they're on your skin and once they fall off from being touched by those mushrooms, they kind of like shrivel up once they hit the ground.
Yeah, they like pill bugs. They
they just kind of like shrivel up, and like you can like just go around. It's gross because the bleach thing is gross. But yeah, they kind of shrivel up, and I know they don't really serve any purpose, so I just encourage us to leave it alone. Don't touch them after they're gone.
Awesome. Does anyone want to follow up on that?
Incredible. Perhaps we heard the overhead cawing of ravens. Perhaps a bountiful feast of leeches for a murder of ravens.
So now we're talking about like the ecosystem of the forest. You notice that
the circle of life.
The circle of life. There's some birds that start flying down, picking off the ravens. Which is probably a food source for the bird life in the forest. Guardian, you got anything for me on this unusual scene?
Yeah. So there's the ravens. There's the leeches. There's a very old wall, stone wall. It's held in place by the weight of the stones. It was never mortared or anything like that. There's a few spots where the wall has kind of collapsed a bit, but even still, it's like a testament of time. A beautiful piece of Of course, we just lose everyone right when I'm in the middle of my description of the wall. I just gotta see. We got Jeremy. There we go. Wait, you're not supposed to be there. Oh, I gave you the wrong one.
The wall.
All this will be edited out, and there we go. And post, gotta fix everything. Justin, you are actually collab cam, and that leaves Sam. Classic indeed.
All right.
So it's a testament of time. It's beautiful. The stones are very smooth. They've been worn down by years of erosion and such. But it's almost serene, with the light coming down and like this idyllic wall.
Interesting. Yeah, it's almost like there's probably some old structure that's been here in the forest for a long time. Maybe it was built by hunters, maybe by foragers, maybe there was a civilization that once made the forest its home. But beyond the river, you find this wall. And on the other side of the wall, as you move past it, I'm going to say there's some ruined sections of the wall, some old building blocks that you guys find in the forest. And this takes us to an opportunity. Okay, so during the journey phase of the game, you can have opportunities as well as these environments that you traverse. Okay, in the final version of the game, we will have illustrated art for the opportunity cards, but for now, I'm just holding up a blank thing. Opportunities like the journey cards that you faced can be rightwise and inverted. This opportunity card represents the missing man, Pierre. All right.
Mm.
Pierre can show up in this adventure dead or alive. You guys bothered to investigate his room, and you successfully found both his old sketch and his journal. This means that this opportunity card is going to be presented right-wise. Pierre is alive.
Yay.
You see sitting on a rock, one of these rocky outcroppings from the wall, a man with a very large and nicely preened mustache. He has a big spear by his side. The spear is broken, and he is dressing a wounded arm. It looks like his arm is in a sling. It's probably broken. He greets you guys as you emerge with kind of a scoff and a sanctimonious-looking expression. He's like, "Oh, hello, fellow explorers in the Azura Wood. Well, you are here to find the monster? The root and branch monster? Ah, it looks very close, not too far away from this wall, just down the path over there. The moving root and branches. I dare you to go there and take a look at it. See what it does to you."
Well, we see what it did to you.
This is nothing but a flesh wound. See, I normally operate at 110% every day. I am operating at 100% right now. I will be okay once I dress this.
I'm looking at his wound and I'm noticing him bandaging his arm, right? He said, and I'm looking like, you're not bandaging. Can you tell me he's not bandaging it, right?
Hello, my name is Hertz. I think you are bandaging incorrectly, actually.
Pierre, my name is Pierre Vercher. And who are you to tell me that I am bandaging this? What do you?
My name is Hertz. Hertz Ungehern.
So he recognizes your garb, and he's like, "Oh, Mappa Mundi. Oh yes, you draw the little pictures of the monsters. Set out on your little expeditions. Oh, very good, very good. You go draw a picture of this monster. See what it
You
does.
drew a picture in your room, sir.
How dare you search my Fixer, by the way, Fixer, you were observing his arm. Make me an observation check.
Ooh, okay.
Give me a 3 or more. Is this like
A 3 or more. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. We got a 3.
Got a 3. Fixer, you notice that he's got a bag near his broken spear. Okay. The bag has something stuffed in it that he seems to be hiding with his foot. Perhaps the spoils of his attack on the monster. You don't know. You also take a look at his spear. Mm-hmm. His spear has an insignia on it. Looks like a snake with a lightning bolt through it.
Ooh. Have I seen that heard of that before?
I'm gonna tell the my companions, like, look at his bag and the spear. Look at the bag.
So, Archivist, you have a local knowledge skill that relies upon observation. So give me a 3 or more.
Okay. Redemption. A 3.
Nice.
A 3. This is the logo of the Forked Vipers. They are a criminal organization in the capital city. They specialize in taxidermy and in selling illegal hunting licenses.
Of course.
Yeah.
Keep that to ourselves for now, maybe.
Yeah.
And
remember, you guys are not the law, but that also means that you can kind of do whatever you want. So.
Is there a way? I don't know if behaviorist would help with this, but is there a way when he was like, go follow this path to find the thing? Did it seem like that is honest? Like he is so confident in, or like a lack of confidence in our abilities or something like that, that he was being honest and that is actually the direction of the monster? Or was it a means to get us to go in the wrong path?
Give me a behaviorist. Give me a behaviorist skill usage. That's going to be observation 4 or more, please.
I'm going to use a fate point. That was 1.
You look at Pierre's injury. It looks like he fell and broke his arm, probably from a decent height. Looks like he was probably fighting or doing something on elevated terrain. You look at the terrain in the direction that he pointed. So he does this wall that we've established in Arcana. It leads to a slightly rocky area. You're probably at the foot of one of the mountains that surrounds the Azura Woods. You think it's probably accurate. Like he seems like kind of cocky bastard, kind of like, hey, go there, try and test your luck. You know, you can't do any better than me.
We will allow you to return back to the village. However, any items of contraband will need to remain with us, if you understand.
Who are you to give me these orders? Contraband. I would like to see you take any items of contraband. Assuming I have any,
I
which I
just
do not.
stand up, really tall. My chest, let it get, do a bit of a flex as I show all of my muscles. Well, I am Desmond Hill, and that's all the authority that I need.
So, is there a particular skill you want to use to try to show off?
Yeah. That's probably going to be a quick thinking.
Quick thinking.
Just as
It's
like
going to be traversal.
Yeah, he's a criminal. Therefore, he's probably a bit of a coward, really. So I'm just trying to bluff him. You know.
I'm behind Desmond, making Desmond look bigger by comparison.
Give me a 5 or more, please.
5 or more. Oh, come on. This is my favorite dice. I mean, I still have a point, but I mean, we still have to deal with the monster, you know?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that, but I was like, we kind of need the other thing.
Well, I'm going to use fate point.
Traditionally, all right, so tell me how you're traversing, how you're flexing on this dude.
Yeah, so it's just I stand up, I make myself look large, throw my leg up very Captain Morgan style on the where he's sitting, and I'm just like, it would be in your best interest, of course. I would hate for your other arm to also end up broken before you make it home.
So this seems to have an impact on Pierre. He looks at you and says, "Ugh, you won't get away with this. You'll be hearing from me in the future." He grabs his spear, which is broken, and kind of like the point of it is broken. It's much, it's pretty useless now, especially when compared to your full staff. So he kind of skirts around you, does a wide berth, curses again, spits on the ground, and then darts off in the direction that he came from. He left his bag behind.
All right. Yay! I open up the bag. What's
incredible?
This item he was planning on hiding.
You find a segment of shell. A piece of shell with a beautiful geometric pattern in it, and the shell almost scintillates and glows, even in the fog of the Azura wood.
I think I'm beginning to piece this together. However, we should, well, go see for ourselves.
So this is a good segue into the encounter phase, the last phase of the game. So the encounter phase is where you encounter the gigantic monster that you've finally been searching for. So you make your way along the path that Pierre told you about, and finally you see a section of trees that seem to weave back and forth in the fog-laden air, with the branches resembling fingers that are beckoning you to move closer. But as you get closer, you realize they're not trees that are moving. They're trees attached to the back of a gigantic snail.
Oh.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Let's go.
A gigantic snail. I actually have additional art of the snails. The snail is massive. The snail is about 50 feet tall.
That's amazing.
Oh, that is amazing.
That is so good.
The snail is about 50 feet tall, and it's just partially covered in fog. And all you can see are those trees wiggling on its back. And that gigantic helix-shaped shell.
Very good.
So
here's
the spiral.
Yeah, so here's where we get to the monster. So look down at the behavior log section of your chronicle sheet. You'll see on the right-hand side, there's a section called monster.
Yeah.
Okay. So every monster in this game has 8 behaviors, and these behaviors are represented with what we call threads. They're those little symbols located next to the list 1 to 8. Okay, a thread can be intact, severed, or frayed. Okay, an intact thread means that there's a behavior waiting for you to uncover it. All right. A severed thread means that that behavior, unfortunately, is broken. That thread cannot be reassembled by you, and you will not be able to find that behavior of the monster. A frayed thread, which usually occurs after a failed check, means that that thread is beginning to wobble and will be in danger of severing. So every monster in this game has a posture. It can be aggressive or passive. The way we determine the posture is by looking at the cards of the journey phase, okay, the river, the fog, the forest. We look at whether or not the majority of these cards were rightwise or inverted. And for you, the majority was inverted, okay? This means that this root and branch snail monster's posture right now is aggressive. This does not mean that it wants to fight you. It just means that it's on edge.
Right.
Which probably makes sense, especially if Pierre just attacked it. So, an aggressive monster has 4 intact threads. 2 of them are frayed. So I encourage you to draw a little tilde or a slash on 2 of the threads there on the form fillable sheet. And unfortunately, 2 of them are frayed, and 2 of them are severed. So yeah, 2 threads are frayed, 2 threads are severed. So you will only be able to uncover a maximum of 6 behaviors if you succeed on your rolls here. There's also a chance that 2 more threads will sever. Once again, we've run this a couple times, and it's very hard to unlock all 8 behaviors. If you can unlock 6, that would be very good. So what you're going to do now is, this is an incredible chance to observe a monster. This is Mappa Mundi's mission. I encourage you to look at the interactions that you have on your character sheet. Each interaction is potentially linked to a behavior. It's your job to use those interactions, and you can also use your skills if you want to. Though for skills, the checks you need to make might be harder to try to unlock the behaviors.
All right.
Incredible. I mean,
all right.
Right off the bat, I have to show Pierre. His sketch was garbage, so I have to sketch. I have to show him what a real sketch is like. Yeah.
So that you immediately sit down, pull out your notebook. You're gonna show this bozo what a real drawing is like.
Oh, that's just great.
Make an observation. Awesome. Make an observation roll. And you found Pierre's sketch, so I'm going to lower the difficulty of this. Instead of a 4, it's a 3. Roll me a 3 or above.
What can go wrong?
And that's a 2. Wow.
That's 2. Wow. Do you have a fate point?
Brutal. No, I used it.
No. So you're so excited that your hand is just shaking right now, and you're just scribbling frantically, and you can't really get a grasp on the shell of the snail because it begins to almost retreat deeper into the fog.
I kind of think back to the leeches and remember that snails and leeches are pretty much the same. So I don't want to do anything to the snail. I just want to just keep that in mind, that the mushrooms that I have are, still there, that they may help us in the long term. But I do my companions, maybe we shouldn't go too close. I think it seems to be injured, and as much as I would love to maybe help the injury, what I have right now wouldn't really be helpful for it. So maybe not get too close.
Of course. I will stay nearby you and make sure that nothing happens while we finish this task.
Yeah. So would anyone else like to try using another interaction? So I will say that because you didn't succeed on that sketch check, one more of the snail's threads has become severed. It's almost like certain behaviors are just no longer visible to you guys. So there are now a maximum of 5 behaviors.
I would like to use my Explorer. I would like to kind of do a wide circle around this thing. I want to pay attention to what it's doing. Like, what is it eating? Is it eating? Is it, just trying to pick up some other angles that maybe we aren't exposed to at the moment.
Give me a 4 or above if you can.
4 or above, exploration. That is cocked. That is a 6.
Yay!
There's a 6.
Not only was it cocked, it was like on top of
Yeah.
a dice and on top of like the side of my tray. It was pretty
You
impressive.
make a loop. You make a loop around this area, observing everything that the snail is doing. You suddenly notice that it's retreating into a crevice underground. There's a gigantic pit in the ground, not that far from where you guys. As it moved away from the archivist as he was doing his sketches, it seems to be moving downwards into the earth itself. You
Subterranean,
unlock this. Yeah, you unlock the behavior called
Yay.
subterranean.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can write that down.
Yes.
Subterranean.
Yep.
So it appears that the snail is venturing back into its underground lair. You, Guardian, succeeded on an exploration check, and you can actually start following it into the lair. And I would like you, Guardian, to shape for me. What does this subterranean enclave look like?
Yeah, so the rock around it that it's kind of going into, it's funny because like its shell just barely seems to like get there, right? And it's the same almost color. So when it gets in, it almost camouflages itself naturally to where even if you were following it down into this layer and you didn't know that it was there, it could hide itself just by pulling itself into its little snail shell.
Excellent. Yeah, so you're in the midst of this weird subterranean lair right now, and your guardian is in front guiding all of you guys downwards, and you feel as if the snail probably regularly travels from this underground passageway up into the forest on probably like a daily basis.
As we're going down, like right before we enter, I want to use exploration to look around and see if I see any food sources, not only for ourselves, but what I would think a snail would eat.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, give me an exploration check of 2 or above.
2 or above. Okay. D4. All right, here it is. 4.
4.
Incredible.
Okay. You don't see any food sources specifically, but you do feel something slippery as you're maneuvering around in the darkness. You look down and you see slime beneath you. You've unlocked the slime trails behavior.
Yay.
All right.
Okay, it looks like this root and branch monster is producing a slick trail of slimy mucus to facilitate easy movement, and the entire slope of this underground crevasse, it's covered in the slimy stuff. The slimy stuff could probably, you're not sure if it has any medicinal properties, but there's enough of it to maybe bottle up if you wanted to.
I would definitely like to do that.
Yeah. You can bottle it up, and a cursory examination of this is probably going to require a check.
Okay, so I definitely want to bottle it up, and I definitely want to see if it's helpful not only to us, but maybe helpful to the snail's injury, since it seems to be injured, and that injury might be causing its agitation.
Yeah, interesting. So this could potentially you could potentially use your "don't eat that" skill for this as well, because it's sort of like testing the medicinal properties. So that's going to be a deduction of 5 or more.
5 or more.
Yeah.
I don't have any fate points.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay.
5.
Okay. Come on, 5.
You got this.
Please be a 5. I don't even want a 6. I just want a 5. And I got a 6.
Incredible.
Okay. You look at the slime, you look at the snail, and you can see that there are several cracks in the snail's shell.
No.
You unlock the wounded behavior because you can see the spot where Pierre probably slashed it with his spear trying to get a piece of that shell.
Well,
and it looks like some slime might be emanating from those cracks on the shell as well. You'd have to get closer and take another look at that if you wanted to. Perhaps using an interaction in order to goad the snail in your direction. I invite the archivist or the guardian to try doing this.
Okay,
just
I don't have bait. I don't know what that's for.
I would like to use the protect interaction in order to very softly, which, you know, soft steps, get up there and do what I can to kind of like patch. Maybe I could use something to kind of like mend the shell for now, or do something that would help to mend the shell. Kind of like you would with like a turtle, where like, you know, if it's got a crack in the shell, like you can like, you know, use a certain type of glue and, you know, use a little Band-Aid. I don't know if they put a Band-Aid on it, but it sounds good. So.
I feel like as a fixer, I would have maybe some bandages or something in my equipment to hand him. I would take some of that slime and put it on the bandage and hand it to the guardian.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's a good idea. Okay, in that case, I would like somebody to, or actually, sorry, guardian. I would like you to make me. Let's see. Protect. Make me a traversal check of 4 or more, if you can, please.
All right. You know, it's funny because like I've got at least more than like a 50% chance of doing this, but
yeah, you do.
That is a 1.
Oh. That is 1. You walk forward with this offering, protection, and then you slip a little bit on that slime trails. But you're like the bad guys in the Home Alone movies, like doing a little slippy dippy right there.
I yell out to him, "Keep your mouth closed."
Oh no, it's too late.
You slip, and unfortunately, the snail's frayed thread severs. That behavior is lost to you. Understood. The snail has potentially one more behavior that you can find. You guys do have some other interactions.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question. What is bait? I'm not understanding. Like, what does that do?
So bait means
I have provoke and bait, and I feel like provoke would be wrong.
So provoke is basically like hitting it with a Pokeball, like in Pokemon. Let's see what it does.
Yeah.
Baiting it is like, you know, maybe setting aside food and trying to see if it comes closer. Maybe doing something like a dance or something like that to see if it'll come closer as well. Yeah.
All right. So, as an interaction, would I know as a fixer and knowing this area? Would I know what snails, not this type of snail, but snails in general, do?
Perhaps the archivist might be able to help you out with that. Archivist. You got local knowledge?
I love snails. I know everything there is to know about smaller, normal snails.
Make me an observation check of 3 or more if you can.
Okay, I will certainly try. Another 2.
Oh my god!
What is happening?
It's tough. It's tough. Yeah.
But this snail, who's to say?
The snail is beautiful. It could be anything, man. Like, it's just look at that. It's a big ass snail. Like, oh man.
All right. Well,
you're kind of left in the dark here, Fixer.
I think I'm gonna use my resourceful skill.
Resourceful, interesting. Yeah.
And then I'm going to retrieve. Well, I have more. Hopefully I have more bandages. I definitely have slime galore, and I'm going to, with the bandage and the slime in hand, kind of like approach it head on, but very like slowly and surreptitiously, trying to be like, it's okay, you know, type of thing, and like go towards its shell to try and patch the shell.
Yes, you combine the bandages and you combine the piece of the shell. Let's say give me a exploration. Give me a 2 or more if you can.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. 50,
okay.
50.
Oh boy. It is a. I'm going to show you here. It's a 3. Yay!
It's a 3.
Incredible.
You get closer, having used some of the implements that pick them. and you're kind of gingerly getting closer to the snail, and you see the section of the shell that Pierre probably jumped on from a great height and started hacking away on. And what you can do is you can kind of place those fragmented pieces of the shell on those cracks. And as you do that, you manage to unlock the regeneration behavior. So you can see that this monster is regenerating the fragmented sections of its shell by secreting a translucent substance across the cracks. This substance looks a lot like the slime, except it's hardening. It's quickly hardening into a protective film over the injuries. Archivist, you had a brain fart, but you suddenly remember that snails, normal snails, they can regrow portions of their shell. If you accidentally step on one and it's not completely destroyed, it can regrow a portion of its shell. It looks like, this is pretty amazing to you, Archivist, it looks like this root and branch monster has an accelerated form of regeneration and is actually secreting a substance that is growing back that shell, in a matter of mere minutes.
Incredible.
Very good.
So that is 4 behaviors found.
50%, not bad.
For this root and branch monster. And as you guys witness the root and branch monster slowly regenerating its shell, the gigantic gastropod slowly moves deeper into the cavern, and fog seems to completely obscure it from your vision. You realize that the slime trails that it leaves behind probably evaporate in the heat of the forest and create the fog. And that's probably why the fog was so dense. And as the root and branch monster slithers away, you're left feeling this sense of awe that you've witnessed something that no one else has ever witnessed before.
I've done it.
So now I'm going to take you guys to the epilogue. We're finishing right on time.
Awesome.
So you guys can return to town. There is no sign of Pierre. It looks like our guardian has intimidated him, perhaps caused this nuisance thief to scramble back off to his masters. You might have to deal with him in the future. Maybe a report to the Mappa Mundi Institute to watch out for this fella might come in handy.
Okay.
But Sylvie and the mayor are very interested to hear what you found. Sylvie's like, so, as a monster, does it bring good tidings or bad omens? And the mayor's like pulling on his beard. He's like, what happened? Please tell us everything. Do we got to worry? Oh, my God.
It was snail.
I'm gonna whisper to my companions. Go, you should tell them that it's just an injured animal, and it's Pierre's fault.
Yes, Pierre's fault. Yes.
Unfortunately, it's all. It was just a misguided snail of larger proportions, and its slime makes fog, so no big deal.
As long as nobody bothers it, it'll be fine.
You think there's a possibility that we can turn it into a tourist attraction, or just come to Gascar and see the giant snail that makes the fog? Is there money to be made in this? Maybe?
No, leave it alone. Leave it alone.
It depends. I mean, if you were to make sure that it is protected, and the money goes to keeping this creature preserved, and people stay at least 100 feet back and look at it from a distance, then I would say absolutely. But I worry about the ecology of the forest and the balance of everything around it. I would prefer that you keep it secret and safe.
Yeah.
It wouldn't harm anybody.
The mayor and Sylvie both think about this, and then they come to an agreement that this will be Gascar's little secret. This snail, if it's not going to be a problem, it's something that they can just watch from afar, and hopefully there will be no more hunters coming to disturb it in the near future. So, as you guys leave Gascar and go back to report the incidents that you've seen to the Mappa Mundi Institute, you leave behind this legend of the forest with its bramble tunnels, its fireflies, and this benevolent guardian, this gigantic snail with the trees on its back swaying to and fro in the fog. That is the story of the root and branch monster that you have helped manifest into reality. And that's the end of the adventure.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Seriously, I really
have to go. I appreciate this. the best game. I wish we could
I'm
play
glad.
it a little longer.
I'm glad we got to finish. But yeah,
Yes.
if you want more, check out our pre-release guide. It's
Yeah.
free. You can read the entire adventure. There's more in the actual thing, but this was a good teaser, and you did a great job.
This was amazing. It was so
Very
much
much
fun.
enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm gonna. I know that like I'm gonna be setting up an interview.
Yeah, you'll be talking with my colleague George.
Yeah. So, but
I would just say before you go,
yeah,
these cards
Are
we've
so
got
amazing.
we've got ones for all sorts of environments: waterfalls,
beautiful.
cliffs, estuaries,
yeah.
wetlands, salt marshes. Like, our goal is to try to tell a very storytelling-driven experience and make exploration interesting.
I love that.
Amazing.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much. I
That was
genuinely
amazing.
appreciate you coming on to share this with us.
No
for
worries.
those
You guys
of-
are a lot of fun. This is great.
This
Yeah.
is so much fun, especially like see, now I want to stay, especially like being able to like add to the lore. I have to go, but adding to the lore and like being able to like expand on everything, that was so much fun.
The
But I gotta
shaping
go.
was really cool.
Bye, Sam.
Thank
care.
you.
Well, for those of you watching at home, feel free to check out oneshottavern.com, where you can find a link to all of our socials. If you liked what we were doing, please check out our Patreon as well. You can find Justin. Justin, where can they find you?
You can find us at So You Want to Be a DM pretty much anywhere: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. Jeez Louise, where else? Other social media platforms, probably. I don't know. Bing it. Bing
Yeah.
us. You'll find us.
And of course, Sam just ducked out, but you can find Sam at Classic Sam NYGM here on Twitch or TikTok. Anywhere is where you can find Sam. Sam is wonderful and delightful. Got to meet her at Gen Con, and it was fantastic. And then where can we find Mappa Mundi, Jeremy?
Yes, you can find Mappa Mundi on basically just go to 3salestudios.com. That's the name, once again, the name of the company that's making this game, 3salestudios.com. This is our main game right now, Mappa Mundi. You can also just Google Mappa Mundi RPG. We're the only one at the moment, and you can find all of our stuff there. We do not have Twitter because my colleague George does not like Elon Musk, which
That's
I think
fair.
is perfectly reasonable. But we are on the Blue Sky.
Oh,
So
right.
you can find us by searching 3Sale Studios on Blue Sky.
Fantastic.
I am on Twitter. So you can find me on Twitter using the name Pixel Grotto, PixelGrotto.
Yeah.
All of my freelance TTRPG work is there as well. I put out regular updates about Mappa Mundi, and just tweet random things from time to time.
All right. It's funny because like a lot of people like it every now and then there's like huge exoduses away from Exodus.
Yeah.
And like recently, like the TTRPG community has been moving to Threads. Which
Threads.
has been interesting. I'm starting to
Well,
use it.
you can find us on Instagram. We're not on Threads yet, but
we
Instagram
go.
under 3Sale Studios. So you can find us on Instagram and TikTok, both under. Actually, our TikTok we're under Mappa Mundi _RPG, which is I think how you found us.
Yeah. Yep.
Deep Bay. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You all have a wonderful rest of your day. Be on the lookout. This is going to be. I mean, you can get the VOD here on Twitch if you haven't or weren't able to watch the whole thing. But we are also going to be releasing this paired with the interview. So we're going to splice in some moments from this into the interview episode. I'm not sure exactly when that's coming because I still have to schedule it, but be on the lookout. And thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to hit end stream here.